Alright, look. All-Star Weekend was definitely something. But I'm not going to talk about this first. Because this wasn't the only race that was going on in NASCAR in this weekend. There's also the truck race and the Xfinity race that were points races. All-Star Weekend for the Cup Series is usually a non-points race, but there was also there was kind of a triple header. So I guess we'll knock those first before going into the All-Star race. But yeah, I have a lot of things to say about that. So let's just jump right in, I guess. One thing to note is that the entire weekend was plagued with thunderstorm warning. There were a lot of thunderstorms nearby over the course of the weekend. So because of that, the truck race was moved 10 minutes earlier for the threat of rain. It didn't end up raining. There wasn't the thunderstorm wasn't even close to hitting the track, thankfully. So the race was able to go the distance. The biggest highlight in heading into this race was Hayley Deegan qualifying in 6th, which was to date the best ever qualifying effort in her career. John Hunter Nemechek won the pole, but he dropped to the rear for unapproved adjustments. Didn't matter much as he was back in the top 10 by the first 20 laps. But until then, stage 1 was all about Stewart Friesen and Ryan Preece. They were the two of the best trucks that, along with John Hunter Nemechek, they were the other Preece and Friesen were the 3 best trucks that race. John Hunter Nemechek eventually ended up finishing the stage in 6th. He ended up climbing back up to 6th, while Ryan Preece managed to edge out Stewart Friesen in the final laps to win the stage with some help from lap traffic. On pit stops, Zane Smith, he got a rough day, honestly, in this race. He had a really rough race. He had a penalty for removing equipment. And Stewart Friesen won the race of pit road. Then in stage 2, Friesen and Preece, it was more of the same. They ran 1st and 2nd. John Hunter Nemechek climbed up to 3rd, so this was a 3-car battle for the lead in the closing laps of the stage. Again, with some help from lap traffic. And lap traffic came into play more so in stage 2 than in stage 1 because Lawless Allen, he held Friesen up, and that allowed Ryan Preece to make a 3-wide move on both of them and take the lead, and he sweeps both stages. Then on pit road, once again, John Hunter Nemechek, he wins the race of pit road, but it was a really messy. This was really messy compared to the end of stage 1, where Corey Heim spun around. He got a top 10 run going, and he got some damage there. So he couldn't catch a break. I think he spun off of Zane Smith. There was also a penalty for Ben Rhodes, an uncontrolled tire that rolled into the grass. Ben Rhodes, once again, another one of those guys. Just like Zane Smith, Ben Rhodes had a really rough day at Texas. On stage 3, also started with a little bit of some interesting developments as Ryan Preece threw a late block on Christian Eckes entering turn 3, which tore open the left rear end of the truck. That messed up the handling a little bit, and it dropped him down to 5th. He wasn't no longer a top 3 car during that time. They eventually managed to repair that as there was a caution, but he was temporarily taken off of the. He was temporarily out of the running for the win. Also, stage 3 was a little bit caution filled. There was a caution where Majeski got loose in turn 2, and he took out Derek Kraus with him. Which, in my opinion, and this is a big takeaway that I had from this race, as I watched this race. The truck series, these trucks are really fragile. They got damage out of nothing. If you look at the crash between Derek Kraus and Ty Majeski, you would note that Derek Kraus, he hit the wall, but he didn't hit the wall that hard for me to say, maybe they can, yeah, he's out of the race. No. Derek Kraus ended up going to the garage. He was down for the race, but the way he hit the wall, I had the impression that maybe they could repair the car, but maybe not. So if the truck series, if NASCAR can find a way to have the truck series run on composite bodies, they need to explore those avenues, because this wasn't the first time that where we saw a car get this much damage, and to the point that they had to go out and DNF. So much damage out of nothing, because I feel like the hit. Because I feel that Derek Kraus, the impact with the wall that he had, it wasn't enough for him to like say, oh yeah, that car's done. No, that was a very light impact. So I was kind of surprised that that was enough for him to warrant a DNF. So anyways, John Hunter Nemechek, he pits for fuel, which is a move that I didn't understand, because they were gonna be short on fuel anyway. So why would they do it? And Ryan Preece also pitted for damage, but that was kind of a given, because that had to eventually, he was messing up the handling of the car. So on the restart, Stewart Friesen now was the car to beat. He got a challenger though in Christian Eckes, although Friesen, it's pretty clear that Friesen had the best long run car. Like Christian Eckes, he maybe could do something in the short run, but in the long run, because Friesen has struggled with restarts in this race quite a little bit. In the race, so throughout the race, throughout this little green flag run that we had, Ryan Preece climbed back up to the top 10. John Hunter Nemechek not so much. He ran around 16th, 17th. Most of that was because of a tire vibration. So his day, he went from bad to worse. And then a caution came out, which, it kind of saved John Hunter Nemechek, but also not really, because once again, that pit strategy was really stupid. I feel like they threw the race with that strategy. But then again, Chris Wright cut a tire after contact with Tyler Hill. And once again, I saw the replay and I saw the contact. And once again, I still cannot believe that tire was cut from that minimal contact. Again, is there a way the Truck Series can implement composite bodies? It was a small contact that cut the tire. These trucks are so fragile. So again, we go to pit stops. Stewart Friesen, my goodness, and Ryan Preece have slow pit stops. A few guys stayed out, and Matt Crafton wins the race of pit road of those who pitted. Christian Eckes and Carson Hocevar stayed out, and on the restart, Christian Eckes manages to hold them off. Zane Smith, once again, has a flat tire after some contact with Chandler Smith. If this happened like in the Xfinity or the Cup Series with these composite bodies, these cars can beat and bang all day long, and still they cannot. It's gonna take a while before they get a cut tire. This is not the case in the Truck Series. They really gotta fix the trucks in this one. So then there is a caution. Another caution comes out because the Zane Smith flat tire didn't brought out a caution, so that was really a tough break for him. That's when his night went from bad to worse. Another caution came out. Tyler Ankrum, he spun out while running inside the top 10. So once again, Hattori, one of the more disappointing teams in the Truck Series. Ankrum really not doing much Ankrum really not making the most out of his opportunity. So on the restart, once again, Christian Eckes, he leads, but Stewart Friesen, John Hunter Nemechek, and Ryan Preece, the three best trucks of the race, they managed to charge into the top 5, and Carson Hocevar also manages to hang in there. So on the final laps, John Hunter Nemechek, he makes a super aggressive move block on Chandler Smith, and that's a teammate. And this is not really the first time we have seen like an on-track incident between John Hunter Nemechek and Chandler Smith. If you remember, a few months ago at Atlanta, John Hunter Nemechek, he was out of the running for the win. He was basically lap traffic. He decided to go with Corey Heim in that race instead of Chandler Smith, and that eventually led to Corey Heim scoring his first career win. And Chandler Smith was pretty mad about it, since Corey Heim wasn't running full time; he was just running part time. He's a rookie, and he feels that the KBN teammates that are running full time, they should stick together. He felt a little bit pissed by that. Once again, I think there might be a feud going on. The race eventually went into overtime after Ben Rhodes, he spun around after Tanner Gray just straight out dumped him. And in overtime, it was Christian Eckes versus Stewart Friesen. They ran side by side for a whole lap. Friesen got a great restart thanks in large part to a push that he got from Ryan Preece. Friesen got by him in turns 1 and 2 eventually in the final lap, and he wins. The winless streak is finally over for Stewart Friesen. It's about time he won one, because ever since Friesen, they made the switch from Chevrolet to Toyota. 2020 was a huge step back, but 2021 it felt like they had put a few strong runs together. It felt like they could potentially win a race. His winless drought is finally over, and like he said, he's in the playoffs, baby. So once again, as for the notable finishers, Ryan Preece, he managed to finish in third after that little damage that he had earlier in the stage. Ty Majeski, after the contact with Derek Kraus, he managed to put together a quietly solid run. He managed to edge out John Hunter Nemechek at the finish line to take fifth away from him. So once again, Majeski putting together a very quiet but solid season. Corey Heim, he managed to finish in 7th after that incident with on pit road at the end of stage 2. Todd Bodine, he finished 13th. Once again, another solid run for Todd Bodine in one of his final few starts for him to reach like 800 NASCAR National Series starts. A pretty solid run for him. And Hayley Deegan, she finished 17th, which in the grand scheme of things may not be like that big of a deal. But considering the fact that she qualified in the top 10 and she had a pretty clean race and she managed to bring it home mid-pack, I know I'm kind of lowering the bar on her, considering that saying, but it's true. This is her best run of the season so far. It really goes to show how really tough, how really rough of a season she's had. And it may look like I'm lowering the bar from her, but honestly, I was really impressed, and I was really happy that she finally got a solid run together. Hopefully, the team can build around that, and she hopefully can get a top 10 or 2 by the end of the season. But the biggest story that came after the race was Ross Chastain. He was in this race, and he finished in 12th. Chastain, he ran in the top 5 and the top 10 for the entirety of the race. However, there was this late race restart that happened where he kind of got loose. I don't know, something happened where he kind of he dropped all the way back to like 20th place. I don't know what was that all about. I think something happened to him. Maybe the car got loose or something. He eventually recovered to finish 12th, but after the race, it was reported that he had been taken up, that he got fainted, and he was taken to the care center for treatment. Fortunately, he's fine. He had just dehydrated because, once again, even though there were thunderstorms in the area, another thing to note is that Texas, it was a pretty hot night. It was in the, it's the month of May. It's almost summertime, so Texas, especially in Texas, the temperatures are really high. So I'm not surprised that Ross Chastain, I'm not surprised that a driver fainted due to dehydration, because once again, it takes a whole lot of physical preparation to be a NASCAR driver. Fortunately, Chastain is fine. He posted on Twitter that he's feeling like $1 million, so that's great. At least there are no concerns now that he's not gonna. If there were any concerns that he might potentially miss the All-Star race, yeah, those concerns are all but gone now. But anyways, like I said, my main takeaway from this race was the NASCAR needs to find a way to have the Truck Series run on composite bodies, because they need to explore these avenues. Because once again, I saw a lot of instances in this race that a driver cutting a tire from minimal contact, also like the Derek Kraus crash, a little tap on the wall, or like a moderate tap on the wall can cause the driver to go to the garage. Yeah, they should really explore that avenue, because I was really frustrated by seeing a lot of solid cars a lot of guys get their runs screwed over because the trucks were so fragile. So again, that was my main takeaway on that. But overall, some people are gonna hate on Texas, because just for the sake of hating on Texas. But for Texas standards, the Truck Series was pretty alright, I'm gonna say. It had a little bit of everything, and an amazing overtime finish to boot, and it was also a clean finish too. So yeah, for Truck Series standards, this was a pretty good, maybe great Texas race. Now for the Xfinity race, compared to the Truck Series, the Xfinity race was a real hot mess. So the big story heading into qualifying was MBM Motorsports and JJ Yeley. They were pretty fast in practice, 4th in fact, and they timed in 14th in qualifying. Also remembering that due to the nearby thunderstorms in the area, there wasn't as much practice, as the Xfinity cars didn't get as much practice as they might have wanted. But still, JJ Yeley, 4th in practice, 14th in qualifying. The best qualifying run in team history by far. It really helped the fact that they had purchased an old car from an old Penske car. That also helped, but still, it's really great watching these small teams get some great runs. So Noah Graxson, another storyline was Noah Graxson getting his first official career pole, which is actually hard to believe, because I knew that Noah Graxson, he got started first a couple of times before. I look back in the 2020 season, the season where there was no practice, no qualifying. He started first 6 times in 2020, but those weren't like official pole positions. He's just gonna be starting first due to the random draw, or because of the formula of like fastest lap, owner points, and stuff like that. Since he didn't earn the pole through traditional means, it doesn't count as a real pole position. But so this is the first time that Graxson is like the fastest car in qualifying. He gets the pole because of that. Yeah, that's the first time Noah Graxson has done that. But still, like I said, that's still actually hard to believe that he's in his 4th full-time Xfinity season, and he's accomplished so much, and he has been one of the best Xfinity drivers, especially this season. Because he finally checked off that box. So stage 1, Graxson, he started out dominating, but the lap traffic caused them to lose. It caused them to lose momentum. Allgaier eventually took the lead just before a caution came out for a blown engine on Ryan Vargas. But Graxson retakes the lead immediately. And it became pretty clear early on that Graxson, he had the best short run car. Allgaier had the best long run car. On that restart, Daniel Hemrick had it really rough. He hit the wall. If you guys remember, Daniel Hemrick is in the danger zone in the playoffs. He's only like 20-something points above the cut line entering this race. So once again, he really needed a good run going to get himself a cushion heading into the playoffs. But yeah, him hitting the wall early on, that wasn't really going to help. Fortunately, a caution came out for a CJ McLaughlin spin. Ryan Sieg also had some damage in the middle of that. But yeah, stage 1 ended up under caution because once again, CJ McLaughlin spun out, and Ty Gibbs as well. He got dumped by Jeff Burton just as the caution had come out. And if you remember, like on that final caution, Ty Gibbs, he got pitted for fresh tires in order for him to make a run for stage points at the end of stage 2. But now that Jeff Burton has spun him out, that really screwed his strategy over. So he got to start from square one. Like Ty Gibbs, he had a really rough day at Texas. The fact that he managed to bring it home mid-pack is honestly incredible in and of itself. So stage 1 ended under caution. Noah Graxson won, but he had a slow stop on pit road that dropped him down to 4th. Brandon Jones won the race off of pit road. Sheldon Creed also had a fast pit stop to get him into the top 10. Several guys stayed out, and because of that, the action in stage 2 picked up with the running order being shuffled a little bit. Josh Berry and Tyler Reddick, now they were running 1-2, and Allgaier quickly moved up through the field. However, we weren't able to see. Allgaier had made it to the top 5. I believe he was like 5th or 4th. When another caution came out for Sheldon Creed, he hit the wall really hard. The back end was really torn up. Basically, another bad race for Sheldon Creed. Basically, just another bad race for Sheldon Creed. Just like Daniel Hemrick, Sheldon Creed really needed a good run. Even more so because he is like 60, almost 70 points below the cut line. He's not even in the top 12 in points or like in the playoff. Yeah, he's not top 12 in points. He's outside the top 12 in points. He's not even top 15 as a matter of fact. So he really needed a good run to go, and yeah, he's been a big disappointment so far. I'm not gonna lie. So at the end of the stage, Junior Motorsports, just a total team control. The best team in the Xfinity Series right now. Josh Berry, Justin Allgaier, and William Byron, who was running the 88 this weekend. They were running 1, 2, 3, with Noah Graxson in 5th and Sam Mayer in 7th. And Josh Berry wins stage 2. Like I said, JR Motorsports is on a roll. They are the best team in Xfinity right now. They have something like 8 straight stage wins for JR Motorsports. Also, the fact that they have won, they've won Talladega. They also won Darlington, Dover. Yeah, they got 3 straight wins. They got a 3-race win streak heading into this race. So on pit road, Josh Berry wins the race off pit road. Ty Gibbs has a fantastic pit stop. He gains 7 spots. He had climbed his way back up to 13 after his strategy was screwed over in stage 1, and he finally finally made his way into the top 10. However, immediately as soon as stage 3 begins, as I said, stage 3 was a really caution-filled stage. It was just wreck after wreck after wreck. It was just an absolute wreck fest. And it immediately started on the restart. Like, that restart really set the tone for what will come for this stage. It really set the tone for the rest of the race. Josh Berry got loose below Allgaier, and he spun out. And in the mayhem, Brandon Jones, he got into the back of Ty Gibbs, and Ty Gibbs basically spun himself and Graxson out. Ty Gibbs both cars were able to continue, albeit with some damage. Graxson had more damage than Ty Gibbs. And I know some people are gonna blame Ty Gibbs for that because they just love to hate on the guy, right, because of his recent actions right now. But in this one incident, Brandon Jones, he got into the back of Ty Gibbs, and I know some people were arguing with me that Brandon Jones, he wasn't in the involved list, so Ty Gibbs just shot up the track and wrecked Graxson. People are saying that Ty Gibbs ran out of talent. No, because if you look at if you look at what happened after the wreck, you saw Brandon Jones on pit road fixing some damage, and he was behind Ty Gibbs when the wreck happened. So it's pretty clear, if you connect the dots, it's pretty clear that Brandon Jones got into the back of Ty Gibbs, and that's what caused Ty Gibbs to go into Noah Graxson and spin him out. A lot of people were saying Ty Gibbs that Brandon Jones, he was not on the involved list that the broadcast showed, and to that I respond, are you really going to trust Fox to do the right thing? Like, Fox's coverage is trash, and you're really going to bring up the involved list? It's pretty possible that Fox missed Brandon Jones, because he clearly was involved in this wreck. He was the one that started the Ty Gibbs and Noah Graxson incident, portion of the incident. Again, nothing against Brandon Jones, but just saying, that wreck wasn't Ty Gibbs' fault, the Noah Graxson incident. Also, CJ McLaughlin was involved in that. He had a really long day in that driving that 38 car. As a matter of fact, RSS Racing as a whole, they had a really rough day. Because CJ McLaughlin, the first half of the race, then Ryan Sieg in the second half of the race, will run into will have troubles of his own. Matt Mills and Josh Williams as well, the BJ McLeod Motorsports, were also taken out in that car. Excuse me. They were taken out in that carnage. So on the restart, Justin Allgaier was not a car to beat. But then a caution came out, another caution this time for Noah Graxson. He blew a tire and he crashed out. And that was set for him, unfortunately. So on the restart, once again, Allgaier still leads, but this time William Byron manages to get the lead from him. Sam Mayer takes second. Allgaier ends up falling back to fourth after Tyler Reddick also gets by him for third, I believe. I believe it was Tyler Reddick, I don't know, but eventually Allgaier falls back to fourth. He starts falling back pretty quick, and it's pretty evident that something is happening. And a few laps later, he had a flat tire, like a tire deflated from him. It was the left rear, and a caution came out, which I don't know if I agree much with that, because the tire carcass didn't come out. There was no debris. Yeah, Allgaier was slow, but he was like way up on the outside and in turns 1 and 2, and nobody runs in the outside in turns 1 and 2 in Texas. So again, I didn't agree with this caution, but it is what it is. The leaders pitted. Some guys stayed out. Austin Hill and Brandon Jones stayed out, so they restarted 1-2. And then another caution comes out, SS green light, the teammates tangle, Joe Graff Jr. and gets into David Starr, and he ends up taking out Ryan Sieg. And then Ryan Sieg brings out the following caution too, similar to Noah Graxson. He blew a tire on a damaged car. It's very similar, like he got involved in an earlier accident, and then because of damage, he ended up blowing another tire, and yeah, basically his day was done, unfortunately. So on the restart, Brandon Jones manages to take the lead from Austin Hill. The first time a non-Chevy car manages to take the lead, manages to lead at Texas, because this race was really dominated by Chevrolet up until that point. Chevy had led every single lap at Texas up until that point, but Brandon Jones, he was leading, and it looked like he was on pace to win the race until the big one happened. Alex LaBey got loose, and he collected J.J. Yeley, Anthony Alfredo, David Starr, and Patrick Emmerling. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but Jesse Woogie, for some reason, decided to just slide it into the grass and just spin himself into the wreck as well. Like, the guy had like a full 10 seconds of seeing what was in front of him. He got 10 seconds, a full 10 seconds to avoid it, and the best course of action is for him to just go dive it into the grass, get loose, spin out, and get himself involved in the crash as well. That was really stupid. Again, Jesse Woody, I like the guy. Good for him that he is in the Army and he also wants to get into NASCAR. But if he wants to get into NASCAR, he should be an owner. He should be an owner, and he should hire somebody like Kyle Weatherman to drive that car for him instead of him driving the car himself. Also, the fact that they actually talked about him while he was running in last place, like early on in stage 1, they were interviewing like Emmitt Smith, saying how proud he was, and then they showed Jesse Woody, and the guy is in last place. Like, I get wanting to give that 34 team some publicity, but running in last place, while he's running in last place, that wasn't the best idea in my opinion. That wasn't like the best decision in my opinion. So, fortunately, this was the final caution. The rest of the race went green. It went green the rest of the way. So you would think that Brandon Jones will stay out and try and hold up the rest of the field, but apparently not. Brandon Jones, he ended up pitting for no reason, and he gets caught speeding on top of that. So, that really, in my opinion, that really threw away his chance to win, because even if he didn't win the race, he could have had like a good top 5 run going there. But anyways, like I said, the race went green the rest of the way. Tyler Reddick and William Byron ran 1-2. Reddick ends up holding off Byron for the win, and it's the first win for Big Machine Racing Team. Similar to what Cole Custer did at Fontana, winning for the SS Greenlight Racing Team. Tyler Reddick shows up and he manages to win a race for a small team. And the Big Machine Racing Team, they have really done like all of the stuff. They have really done all of the stuff right with Jade Buford and stuff like that. Jade Buford have really helped build that team, but this season they started off with a lot of bad luck, and Jade Buford had to be benched, which I really felt for him. I really thought it was going to be for a few races, but then Kaz Grala, now Tyler Reddick, they're running for him, so I don't know when he's going to return. But now that the Big Machine Racing Team, they have been able to evaluate that their cars are really capable of winning, and their problem is not the cars, and their problem really is not the cars, it's somewhere else. I really hope that Jade Buford returns, because I feel he has some unfinished business in that 48 team. But yeah, kudos to Tyler Reddick once again, winning for a Cup driver, winning for a small team. It's always a good thing. A Cup driver winning for a small team in Xfinity is always, it's always a good thing. Usually they're brought in to help the team, like a bit in the owner's points, but when they go out and win the whole thing, it's gonna be a great feeling for that. So, anyways, as for the notable finishers, Sam Mayer finishes 3rd. This is his 6th top 5 already in the last 7 races. He's one of the hottest drivers in the season so far. Justin Allgaier, after that flat tire, he managed to climb back up to 4th. Josh Berry finished 7th after that spin in stage 3. AJ Allmendinger, for a moment, he got a contact with Justin Allgaier late in the race. I thought that was going to cut a tire, but then I remember Xfinity runs composite body, so he'll be fine. He managed to finish 9th, so his consecutive top 10 streak is still alive. He's 12 for 12 in top 10 so far this season, which is great. Ty Gibbs finished 12th. He managed to, with an injured race car, he managed to finish 12th. Brandon Jones, he finished 14th after throwing away his shot at the win. But overall, I still can't believe I'm gonna say this. The Xfinity race was more messy than the truck race. I never thought I would ever see the day where a truck race was better than an Xfinity race, especially at Texas of all places, because like I said, Texas is not really like like a really favorite track among all of Texas. Isn't really like Texas isn't really like a fan favorite track, like quite the opposite. But I never would have expected the truck race to be better than the Xfinity race, because this race was a total, absolute wreckfest. But yeah, I feel like these two races were like appetizers for the All-Star race. Like, I know these are non-points race, that the All-Star race is a non-points race, and these two races, Xfinity and trucks, they are. But yeah. For the most part, the truck race, I really enjoyed it. Xfinity race, not that much. And now we get into the All-Star race. And where do I begin? This was, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst, and I mean the worst, All-Star race in NASCAR's history, like in its entire existence, ever since the All-Star race was implemented, like in the mid-80s. I have never seen such a pathetic display of officiating combined with a pretty decent at best on-track product. Like, seriously. And this didn't have to start like this. I remember when the All-Star Weekend was announced to be at Texas, reactions were mixed, but then, the next gen car, especially with how the 1.5 mile tracks were pretty, have produced a lot of great racing. Las Vegas and Kansas were great. Darlington was great as well. Darlington is not a 1.5 mile track, but it's an intermediate. Hell, even Dover was pretty good for its standards. So maybe there was some hope for Texas, And I said Dover. I don't consider Dover an intermediate track. I still consider it a short track, but you run it like an intermediate track basically. So, and Dover had some great racing. One of the better Dover races in recent years because of the Gen 7 car. So I thought Texas was gonna be more of the same. And I mean, the All-Star Open. The All-Star Open, it didn't show a lot, but I mean, it was pretty solid, Now, of course, the first thing that was to note was more cars in the All-Star race than in the All-Star Open. But that's mostly because it's, Gen 7 car. Only like 36 cars in total were entered between the All-Star race and the Open, which are all 36 charter teams. There was no like 62 team, none of the MBM Motorsports cars. There was no 27 from the team Hesseberg or Jack Villeneuve, Loris Hessemans. None of those guys were there. The 15, the Money team wasn't there either. I thought some of the Open cars were gonna enter like the All-Star Open. That was honestly a bit disappointing. But then again, like a few people were complaining about how the All-Star race has more cars than the All-Star Open. It has to do with a combination of a lot of different winners, especially this season. There have been 11 different winners so far this season. That and the fact that only 36 teams entered among the All-Star race and the Open. So all of that contributed to like 2/3 of the field being eligible for the All-Star race. Of course, you got the 20 winners / past champions or past winners of the All-Star race, whatever. You got that. Plus whoever wins, the 3 guys that win the Open, plus the fan vote. So, there wasn't really a big deal for me. Anyways, the Open, like I said, it was pretty decent. A lot of people said that it was pretty boring, but then again, I'm not gonna judge the All-Star race as a whole over just a 50 lap Open race that is divided in 10 segments. So Reddick started on the pole. So from what I saw, it was pretty decent. Reddick started on the pole, but had to start from the back, him and Justin Haley, because of unapproved adjustments. Stage 1 went pretty, was pretty meh. Stenhouse won. Reddick charged from the back all the way up to 5th. Stage 2, Daniel Suarez, Landon Castle, they took 2 tires. Corey LaJoie stayed out, and from that point forward, we saw something that was going to be pretty. Not only was it going to be a theme throughout this weekend, but also throughout the race, and also the track of Texas as a whole, especially since the repave. Texas has always been a track that has relied heavily on clean air. Like, if you got the clean air, then that's gonna be king. You're gonna be the king. It doesn't matter if you have 2 tires or 4 tires, especially in the short run. That clean air is gonna matter a lot. So because of that, LaJoie held the lead for portions of the race, but then Landon Castle crashed, and that brought a caution. If you remember, Castle, he had taken 2 tires. He got loose and crashed, and then on the restart, Chris Buescher made a 3-wide move for the lead, and that pretty much set it. That was stage 2, right there. So stage 3, Corey LaJoie pitted because, making it all 40 laps on one set of tires, especially with what we saw later in the All-Star race. That was a really great call from Corey LaJoie because those tires, those Goodyears just could not, they could not hold on for shit. Like, the biggest amount of laps you could run on a single set of Goodyears was like 45 to 50 laps before one of those tires blew out and an accident happened. And trust me, there were a lot of accidents that were caused in the All-Star race itself, caused by just blown tires. We'll get to that later. But for now, in stage 3, Daniel Suarez, he cleared Tyler Reddick on the restarts. Remember that Suarez, he took 2 tires. Reddick had taken 4. And because Suarez has a clean air, Reddick tried to make something happen on the outside. He drove it way too hard coming up of turn 4, and he lost it, crashes. And Harrison Burton Pausing, which really stings because he ended up taking out both drivers. And Suarez holds on to win stage 3, and Erik Jones wins the fan boat. In my opinion, it should have been Reddick. Or rather, it would have been Reddick, but his car was not in raceable condition. But I'm pretty sure if Tyler Reddick, he didn't crash and he held on to finish second, he would have been the fan boat because I have no doubt he would have been the fan boat because I'm pretty sure Tyler Reddick has more fans than Erik Jones right now. That's no slight against Erik Jones though. He got a great race. He had been having a great season. He definitely deserves to be in the All-Star race. If it's not Tyler Reddick, then it's Erik Jones. So to recap, Ricky Stenhouse, Chris Buescher, Daniel Suarez, and Erik Jones, they didn't make it into the All-Star race. They made it into the All-Star race, excuse me. Tyler Reddick didn't make it, which, again, that's still wild to say out loud, especially with how great he has been. But yeah, like I said, the All-Star Open was pretty decent. He had his moments. Like, of course, that 3-wide move on Buescher. But overall, it was a nice little appetizer. I wasn't too harsh on saying, oh, the racing is going to be trash. Because, again, I don't judge the All-Star race because of what happens in the Open. Because the Open is supposed to be just a 50 lap divided into stages of 20, 20, and 10. So I was going to hold until the All-Star race to give my final verdict. And oh my goodness, the All-Star race was absolute trash. So Kyle Busch won the pole in the All-Star race, which was a tournament-style qualifying where they had to start, where teams had to start by making, pit stops, a 4-tire pit stop, and then they had to get off pit road, and then whoever crossed the finish line first advanced, and whoever was the last man standing ended up winning the pole. So Kyle Busch ended up defeating Ryan Blaney in the final round, and he ended up winning the pole because of that. And because he had the pole, he had the clean air, and he pretty much won stage 1, and then he stayed out. I like the leader stayed out. I believe like the top 6, stayed out. I don't know. But I know for a fact that Kyle Busch, I don't know if Ryan Blaney stayed out. Maybe he would have. Yeah. Kyle Larson stayed out. Ross Chastain. I don't know. A few of the guys stayed out, but I know Kyle Busch was one of the guys who stayed out. Bubba Wallace got busted for a loose wheel. Like even in a non-points race, Bubba Wallace's pit crew still manages to find a way to screw it over. Like seriously, that pit crew needs to be. Like seriously, 2311 needs to do something with that pit crew. And even Denny Hamlin has said it himself that it's about time something changes within that 2311 pit crew, because it's honestly astounding. Because it's honestly astounding how many good runs has Bubba lost, or how many positions, how many valuable points Bubba has lost in the season so far because of this just godforsaken pit crew, for lack of a better word, of course. So in stage 2, drivers started making moves. We saw Blaney making a slide job on Chastain that actually failed, and he ended up losing a lot of spots. Christopher Bell also got high up on the groove on the track, and Truex took advantage of that. Also, Chase Elliott was there as well. And then Larson blew a tire, which was a big hit. Remember that Larson was one of the guys who stayed out along with Kyle Busch. And it didn't matter. At first, it didn't matter. I thought it was going to be like a one-time occurrence. But then on the restart, Kyle Busch leads. It's towards the end of stage 2. He's just about to, it's a few laps left in stage 2. Bam! Blows a tire. And he then tries to get it out of, he tries to coast to the apron, because if he keeps it on the top groove, then he's gonna lose it, and then he's gonna get smacked down hard in the driver's door. So on the side, he's gonna get T-boned hard. So that's why he decided to get it down there. The drivers, because the middle lane and the drivers, they drove by him in the middle lane. Chastain, he tried to make it as low as possible. He was already committed to that. He couldn't go any lower, and he just ended up like pile driving into him. But the way he pile drove was he just ended up flying over him like on 2 wheels. I thought he was gonna flip over. I'm so happy he didn't. And then he also collected Chase Elliott. So just like that, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, and Chase Elliott, they were taken out. And those guys, along with Kyle Larson, funnily enough, they were my 4 picks to win, because Kyle Busch and Larson, they were my picks to win. I didn't think Larson would go back-to-back, because I knew something would happen to him, and sure enough, it did. So I thought Kyle Busch was going to win, because, track position matters a lot, and with Kyle Busch having the track position, I thought he was going to be smooth sailing to the win. Then Chase Elliott, I thought it was going to be like more of an underdog pick to win, and Chastain was going to be like my dark horse. All of them ended up crashing out. So the only guy that was like left of those that I picked was only Blaney, which was on that like underdog pick. But basically, like Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney, they were the 5 guys that I picked to win before the All-Star race. And by the end of stage 2 isn't even over, and 4 of those 5 guys are already taken out. And then you have Ryan Blaney that's running in the top 5, and we're going to talk about Blaney later, because his race had an interesting ending. So anyways, tires became a concern, because like I said, 50 laps, it looks like it's the most they can handle at a track like Texas. And also, a pattern that I have noticed is that these tires, they tend to blow and lose air pressure a lot, and they tend to just explode when they're running on a hot racetrack. Because if you remember Kansas, once again, Kansas, last week, we got a lot of problems, like left rear tires and stuff, where drivers just couldn't, where after 30 laps, a caution always came out due to somebody blowing a left rear tire. The exact same thing happened here, except that it's not necessarily the left rear tire. If you look at the If you look at Kyle Larson, he blew a right front tire. If you look at Kyle Busch's case, he blew a right rear tire. Yeah, he blew a right rear tire. So, it seems like I said, this is something that NASCAR needs to look at. They can't just limit themselves to saying, it's up to the teams to figure it out. No, hell no. You are the tire manufacturer, Goodyear. For goodness sake, do something. Especially since we are heading into the summertime and the temperatures, the track temperature is going to rise up. What will happen when we get to Sonoma? What will happen when we get to Sonoma in the month of June? I dread to think about that race now. Now that I'm saying it out loud, how would a Sonoma race look like? And how would the other races like Nashville, the other races in the summertime under the hot sun look like? Once again, I dread to think about it. I really do, and I really want NASCAR to have like great races, because 2022 has been hyped as a great season, and so far it's had its great moments. Don't get me wrong, but one of the negatives so far this season, it has been the tires, and they rear its ugly head in the All-Star race once again. And I just cannot handle it anymore, because, yes, I get it. The All-Star race is supposed to be a gimmick race. And at first, I didn't get to... at first, like, a lot of people were saying, the All-Star race is very gimmicky. That's what it's supposed to be. The All-Star race is supposed to be a full-on gimmick, but, yeah, these tires, they were one of the many negatives about this All-Star race. Let's put it lightly. And again, going back to the Kyle Busch wreck, a lot of people were blaming Kyle Busch for this one, just like they were angry at him for, parking his car in front of the garage area because he couldn't steer it at Darlington. A lot of people were mad at Kyle Busch for just, drifting into traffic, quote unquote. The only car that hit him was Chastain. He wasn't like LePage. He didn't just LePage the field. If the only guy that hit him was Chastain, and that was mostly, like, arguably that was a spotter error. So again, yeah, I'm sad that Chastain and Chase Elliott were caught in that, but that wasn't Kyle Busch's fault. He just couldn't control the car. It's very hard to control the car when you got a rear tire down, whether that be the right rear or the left rear. And the top lane of the track, it has banking. And the top lane of the track, he has a little bit of banking. So if Kyle Busch, he stayed on the top lane of the track, he would have just spun out and he could have gotten T-bone or worse. So I think he did the best he could. Again, it's not Kyle Busch's fault that he took the lane that he was. It's not Ross Chastain's fault that he got caught up in it. And hell, it's not Chase Elliott's fault either. He was just an innocent bystander. He's just racing. Accidents happen. It's unfortunate. If anything, the one to blame is Goodyear for bringing the same tire compound that they've been bringing all season long, that has been causing the same goddamn issues, and I am so tired of that. And this is not the last you hear of me getting all this ranty about. Oh, trust me. This is going to be like one of the longest videos on this channel, and for a good reason, because I have a lot of things to say about this All-Star race. Anyways, Austin Cindric, on the restart, the race restarted. It was an overtime, a sprint to the finish for Stage 2. Austin Cindric ended up winning Stage 2 over Ryan Blaney. And then in the Pit Crew Challenge, Joe Logano wins the Pit Crew Challenge because, the Pit Crew Challenge is held at the end of Stage 2 when everybody has to make their mandatory pit stop. Joe Logano wins, and William Byron wins the race of pit road. But in Stage 3, Ryan Blaney immediately takes the lead away from Byron. And then just like 15 laps into the stage, not even 15 laps, like just 10 laps into the stage or something like that, Ricky Stenhouse blows a tire, no caution. But then Christopher Bell blows a tire, and then he hits the wall, and that brings out a caution. Fortunately, the damage wasn't enough on Bell's car that he was able to continue, but still. The fact that this was a tire that caused this, like, seriously, what is wrong with these Goodyears? So once again, there is a restart, and Blaney manages to win stage 3. And with Kyle Busch, with Kyle Busch out of the running, that means that Austin Cindric wins stage 2, Ryan Blaney wins stage 3, and Logano wins the pit crew challenge, which means that Penske is going to be lining up 1, 2, 3 for the final stage. Then on pit road, Bubba Wallace, who already had like an uncontrolled tire penalty earlier. I believe it was in like stage 1. I believe. Yeah, it was in stage 1. He got penalized for a loose wheel. Bubba Wallace, his pit crew gives him another terrible pit stop. He loses 6 spots on pit road, and they almost have another uncontrolled tire penalty on top of that. It wasn't a penalty in the end, but it was almost a penalty. Again, like I said, 23-11, they got to get their act together, because they're really, especially Bubba's pit crew, the 23 pit crew, they got to get their stuff together. Otherwise, some major changes are going to be coming. Possibly a massive overhaul of the roster, because seriously, they are, by the numbers, they are the worst pit crew in NASCAR. Even in a non-points race, it's like they don't even want to win. So anyways, we go to stage 4, the final stage. Blaney, Cindric, and Logano, they are 1, 2, 3. By this point, it's pretty clear that Blaney is the car to beat. Bubba Wallace, speaking of him, he has a flat tire, so yeah, he had a really long night. He had a really long night. Of the guys that didn't crash, he was like running the worst of the guys that didn't crash, that actually finished the race. He had a very long race for a doubt. He spent like a huge portion of the race a lap down, and most of that was because of flat tires, and also his pit crew just selling him. Speaking of tires, the issues were so bad that NASCAR had to implement a competition caution for lap 25. So basically, they had to split the final stage in 2, like the first half of stage 4 and then the second half of stage 4, because this final stage was 50 laps long. So, you could say that they added a 5th stage in a way. So, anyways, they were about to throw the competition caution, but then Eric Jones crashed. It wasn't because of a tire, though. He just simply, got loose off of turn 4. So the competition caution wasn't planned, but, because to check tire wear and for safety issues. The top 4 stay out. Everybody, from 5th on back, they started pitting. Denny Hamlin, I know he pitted. Truex, I think he did as well. But Hamlin took 2 fresh tires, and he was, the first guy who got pitted. And on the restart, Blaney and Austin Cindric, they managed to stay 1-2. Logano falls back. I think he got passed by Hamlin and Daniel Suarez there. Hamlin, with those 2 fresh tires, he manages to charge all the way up to 2nd with Austin Cindric. But it's not enough to catch up to Blaney. And Blaney takes the win. Oh, wait. He doesn't quite take the win, because for some reason, NASCAR decided that, in the spirit of All-Star Weekend and for trying to make this race as gimmicky as possible, they decided to implement the biggest gimmicky rule of them all. If you guys don't know, there is this rule that NASCAR implemented back in that the ARCA series had implemented like a few years ago. This rule states that the leader has to take the checker flag under green so that the race is over. If the leader doesn't take the checker flag when the race is green, if a caution comes out before the checker, then the race goes to overtime. Now, the difference between, usually when it comes to overtime rules and stuff, it's if the leader takes the white flag, the next flag ends the race. No. In this case, NASCAR decided that the leader has to take the checker flag under green for the race to be over. And because of that, just as Ryan Blaney is about to cross the checker flag and receive his $1 million paycheck, guess what? Ricky Stenhouse hits the wall. No harm, no foul. That shouldn't have that's not a caution, right? Well, apparently not, because the race control, the race director apparently decided, with those cat-like reflexes, decides, we see a car in the wall? Yep, a caution. Just a few feet before Ryan Blaney crosses the finish line, a caution comes out. That's just absolute bullshit. I cannot believe it. And I know a lot of people were saying, well, the rule was put in place because of that. Well, that goes to show you how stupid that rule is. That shouldn't have even been a rule in the first place. Like, come on, seriously. Of all of the rules that exist in motorsports, the rule that the leader has to take the checker flag under green, that it has to end under green at any cost, that has to be the stupidest rule of them all, or one of the stupidest at the very least, because there's a reason why the ARCA series doesn't implement that rule anymore, or if they implement it, then there's a reason why the ARCA series, they implemented that rule, and that's one of the main reasons why the ARCA series is not what it used to be. If they still implemented that, if they still use that rule, if that rule still exists for the ARCA series, then shame on them. That's just a shitty series anyways, but that just goes to show you how stupid that rule is. That rule that the leader has to take the checker flag under green for the race to be over. No. I get it, and it's pretty clear why NASCAR did it. It's because of overtime for entertainment purposes, and because, it's all-star gimmicks and stuff like that. And look, I am all in for an overtime finish, okay? I am all in for like a green-white checker, an overtime finish. I'm all in for it. Yeah, it may be bullshit that the guy, before the white flag comes out, but at the very least, that's the rule, okay? And I have no problem with the rule, no matter how much NASCAR, tries to push the envelope on those. At the heart and soul of it, it's a rule. But this rule is stupid in comparison. You cannot just push the race and go full-on gimmick mode with the races at the cost of entertainment and at the cost of of the legitimacy. Because in the end, Ryan Blaney ended up winning the race on an overtime restart. The race went to overtime. Ryan Blaney ended up holding off the field because he had the best car, and he ended up winning the race anyway. So, no harm, no foul. At the very least, the right guy, he ended up winning the race. But the way he ended up winning it, and, the fallout that ensued, because Ryan Blaney, the moment he crossed the finish line, yeah, the race wasn't over, but he thought it was at the time, and the first thing he did was take off his window net. And it's a safety rule that in NASCAR, that you have to keep your window net up at all costs. And if you have a problem with the window net, you have to come down pit road and fix it, and you're gonna be losing your track position. Even if caution laps don't count, even if it's the All-Star race, caution laps don't count. I believe in this All-Star race, caution laps did count because the stage was gonna end under overtime. So yeah, caution laps were counting there. Blaney was gonna have to come down pit road, and he was gonna have to get his window net down, but because NASCAR realized that they were gonna screw over Blaney, that Blaney should have won that race, and that race control maybe was a bit too premature with their decision, in an effort to try to try and fix their mistake, they end up throwing the rulebook out of the window. They decide that Ryan Blaney, they decide to have Ryan Blaney race with his window net down. Ryan Blaney tried to hook the window net up as best as he could, but there was nothing much he could do. Once he took the green flag for the restart, that window net just went down, and Blaney had to do the last 2 laps. Ryan Blaney had to run the final 2 laps with his window net down. And yes, he ended up winning the race, but he won by breaking a rule on NASCAR's rule, or rather, NASCAR broke a rule to have him win a race, to have him win the race. And again, a lot of people are saying that Hamlin shouldn't have won this race. Look, and again, a lot of people are saying that, yeah, Hamlin should have won this race. And look, Ryan Blaney was the rightful winner of the race. Even Denny Hamlin said it himself, that Ryan Blaney deserved to win the race. But what Hamlin is angry at, and what most NASCAR fans, myself included, are angry at, is the officiating. is the officiating, because none of this debate about the window net, we would not be having this debate about the window net if NASCAR didn't throw out the fucking caution in the first place. That caution shouldn't have been thrown. You know, NASCAR could do whatever they want after Blaney took the checker flag, but before Blaney takes the checker flag to receive his $1 million paycheck, when the rule is that the race has to end under green. Come on, NASCAR. NASCAR knew exactly what they were doing. NASCAR knew exactly what they were doing. That race control guy, he knew exactly what he was doing, and I am so disgusted that NASCAR, they tried not only to put the legitimacy of the sport, but also a driver's safety at risk. Because imagine if Ryan Blaney crashed during that restart. Imagine if Ryan Blaney, like, in his haste to try and, you know, defend his $1 million prize that he had rightfully earned. Imagine if Ryan Blaney, he went on the restart, he pulled like a late block, he threw a late block and he crashed, and then like a driver ended up and then he ended up like, he caused a massive pileup. What would happen to him if his window net was down? What would happen to him? That's a safety measure. Especially when we had the Ross Chastain incident. We had a car fly in this exact same race earlier with Ross Chastain flying over Kyle Busch after he hit him. Bro, we cannot be having situations like this where a driver's safety is compromised. Look, I am so happy Ryan Blaney won, but if I was race control, what I would have done is, you know, I would have told Blaney to go down pit road so they can fix the window net, and then he comes back out pit road, and then he comes back on the track, and he is still the leader. Yeah, it will still be a broken rule. It will still be like a, you know, a broken rule. They would have still broken a rule because, you know, if caution laps count, then yeah, Blaney is. Ryan Blaney, he will be restarting on the lead. He will be keeping his track position. But at the very least, that would have been much better than, you know, a driver. That would have been better than a driver having his safety compromised because the sanctioning body decided to correct a mistake that shouldn't have even been trying to correct something that shouldn't have even happened in the first place. Like, this is just so stupid. 2 wrongs, like Denny Hamlin said in his tweet, 2 wrongs do not make a right. And once again, the discourse that Denny Hamlin is receiving, a lot of people saying that Denny Hamlin is crying because of it and gets hated for it. I really do not understand why people are hating on Denny Hamlin, and I do not understand why Hamlin is getting the slander that he's receiving, because he is right. He is in the right to speak out. Now, a lot of people are saying that Hamlin should protest the win. He will not do that because, you know, if you listen to Hamlin's and his radio communications, he said something along the lines of, you know, Ryan Blaney deserves to win this race no matter what happens. But he also said that it's pretty bullshit that NASCAR, once again, they basically changed the rules, or rather they made up the rules as they went just to have Ryan Blaney win the race. And he also said, you know, yeah, in the end Ryan Blaney deserves his win, but the way the race was officiated is just stupid. I have never seen such a pathetic display of officiating ever since Talladega 2015, the playoff race at Talladega in 2015. That's the instance, the only other instance that actually matches it, like this level of bullshittery. And now a lot of people are gonna say, this is an on-points race, bro. This was $1 million. This was for $1 million. Yeah, it wasn't a. This wasn't a points race, sure, but there was $1 million. There was real money on the line, big money, 7-figure money on the line. You cannot be doing that. And again, some people may seem like this is like I am ranting about this. It's because I am, because that was bullshit. Because that was bullshit. There is no other word for me to describe this, other than the fact that this was like absolutely bullshit. I'm just at a loss for words. And you know, I am so, you know, we are so lucky that I am not doing like a letter review or driver of the day for this stuff. I'm not gonna be doing like a letter review or like driver of the day for this for this stuff, because the All-Star race is a non-points race, so I'm not gonna be doing any like letter reviews or or All-Star, or I'm not gonna be doing any letter reviews or like driver of the day stuff for this video, because the All-Star race is a non-points race. I'm only gonna do like driver of the day and stuff like that. I'm only gonna do that for the points races. But what I was gonna do instead, I was gonna like compare this All-Star race to the past editions of the All-Star race. But it's pretty pointless at this point, because this was, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst All-Star race ever. Between the tires, between Goodyear having like incompetent tires, between the rampant tire issues that surrounded this race, that plagued this race, and the controversy at the end, and the poor officiating that followed, with the driver's safety being compromised in NASCAR trying to fix a mistake, because two wrongs do not make a right, like Denny Hamlin said. Two wrongs do not make a right. Like, we wouldn't be having this debate about the window net if NASCAR didn't throw out a caution that shouldn't have even been a caution in the first place. So then again, maybe this will be negligible if the racing product was, if the racing product on the track was something, because last week at Kansas we had a lot of tire issues. Like every 25 to 30 laps, the driver was blowing tires. But at the very least, the racing product was great outside of the blowing tires. There was like a lot of battles for the lead and stuff. In the case of Texas, the racing product was basically the same. If you compare the racing at Texas to the Gen 6 days, the Gen 7 car, it was basically the same. Nothing changed at Texas. And I'm not going to be critical of the racing product by itself, because on Texas, I'm starting to believe that Texas is beyond repair and stuff like that. Like, there's nothing that can be done to save Texas at this point. If the Gen 7 could not, if they're racing the Gen 7 cars at Texas and nothing changed from the racing product wise, if nothing changed, and I mean, what can you do? Now again, this is the All-Star race, a gimmicky race. I still need to see how the next gen cars race on a real race at Texas for me to deliver like my final verdict on if the track is there can still be something to save the track. But if I'm going to use the All-Star race as a basis for me to be optimistic for this race, I'm not going to be very optimistic for the playoff race at Texas, because 500 miles of this thing, and not to mention that Texas race will be 500 miles long. Usually 1.5 mile tracks, they usually go by 400 miles. So, and there has been talk about Texas being reduced to 400 miles, and honestly, I think this will be the best bet moving forward, because of all the intermediate tracks that deserve to be, like, no 1.5 mile track deserves to have a 500 mile race outside of Charlotte, because it's a Coca-Cola 600. But if I have to pick one outside of Charlotte, it would not be Texas. I can think of any other track, like, hell, even Atlanta. And Atlanta should not be like 500 miles either, especially now that they turn into a super speedway. I would take a 500 mile Atlanta race over a 500 mile Texas race. Like that, I will do it. Like Las Vegas being a 500 mile race, that would be better than Texas. Let's see, Kansas being a 500 mile race, that would be better than Texas, honestly. Hell, even Chicagoland, Kentucky, tracks that NASCAR doesn't race at anymore, I would take those over freaking Texas. So again, I'm I'm gonna give Texas one last chance because, again, like I said, the All-Star race is not because, again, the All-Star race, I'm not gonna base myself like I'm gonna say, oh, Texas is a great track, it's a good or bad track. I'm not gonna say that of like an All-Star race, of a single All-Star race, because that's a gimmicky race. I need to see how these Gen 7 cars they race at Texas on a real like points pain race for me to really evaluate if Texas is really a track, if the Gen 7 cars really fix Texas. Although, like I said, if I'm going to check, although then again, this All-Star race, if I'm going to check at this, but again, for me, looking at this All-Star race, even if I look at the racing product by itself, even if I take away like the tire issues and the controversy away, if I look at the racing product at best, and I compare it to how they raced at Texas in the Gen 6, it's pretty much the same, honestly. There was like a lot of moves like on the mid-pack that were made, but overall, like the leader was pulling away. There were a lot of moves like that were done in the mid-pack, but the leader was pulling away. Cleaner was king as well. Especially in the short runs where it seemed like a guy that stayed out could actually hold its own for like plenty of laps, for like a good chunk of laps. So where a driver that had taken 2 to 4 tires. Yeah, again, not a very encouraging sign. Also, not to mention the fact that the All-Star race at Texas, they had already garnered some controversy because the governor was gonna wave the green flag as well. So overall, that All-Star race was a complete disaster. Because and now I'm not gonna try and get too political on this because that's not really my forte, and I don't want this this channel or this video to become too political. At the core of it all, it's just a man waving a green flag. So overall, wearing pride shirts to protest the guy, it's not going to do anything. Like, it's just a guy waving a flag. I get it. You don't agree with his politics. I personally do not agree with them either. But your response to the guy waving a green flag is for you to protest by bringing in politics into NASCAR. Like, I do not really understand that. Yeah, I don't like the guy. I don't like the decisions he has made either. But I'm not gonna protest, because if I protest, then the only thing I will be doing is just becoming a part of the problem. I would just be bringing politics into the sport. So overall, I feel like people needed to stop bitching about that. Like, I understand why they are angry, but I do not really participate in that much. But at the end of the day, all I'm gonna say is I've almost lost my voice. I have recorded this for I've been recording this in front of my laptop for like an hour and something, like an hour and 20 minutes. I really need some water. I feel like I have lost my voice, but that's just how done I am with this All-Star race. Dude, look. If you're gonna keep this going, do not return to Texas. I don't care. But do not return to Texas. Between the officiating, between the tires, even if the racing product wasn't as bad as some people, even if I don't think the racing product was as bad as some people make it out to be, the underlying issues and how this whole All-Star weekend was handled, between the controversy, the political controversies, between the tires situations, between the controversial officiating at the end, the stupid officiating towards the end of the race, it's pretty clear that we should not be racing at Texas for the All-Star race. Texas should not be the venue for the All-Star race of the future. In my opinion, I think the All-Star race should be like a rotating venue. And hell, why not make it a stadium race? Just like the Clash. Make the All-Star race, maybe return to the LA Coliseum for the All-Star race. Or, not really, or not even just the LA Coliseum. You can maybe explore other zones, like whole like an all-star race, maybe at another stadium, maybe. But that's not a thing NASCAR should really explore. Like have the all-star race be a rotating venue, but do not return to Texas. At least for as far as the all-star race goes, do not return to Texas because this all-star weekend just really left a sour taste in my mouth. I do not want to see the calendar, the NASCAR calendar, and say that they are returning to Texas for the all-star race. I'm really not going to. I'm really gonna lose it if that happens, but yeah, that's the end of this freaking rant. Gosh, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I'm just at a loss for words. NASCAR just really keeps outdoing themselves every freaking time. Well, I guess I'm going to sleep. I guess I'll be going to sleep with this. I am glad that Ryan Blaney won. Because if he didn't, I cannot even imagine the shitstorm that will be raging around NASCAR right now. Because this was not even the WWE will do stuff like this. But and also, please NASCAR, please, the next time you make an all-star race, make sure it's a Saturday night race, because a Sunday night race does not work unless the Monday after is a national holiday. So, and Monday being a national holiday, those days are like few and far between. Just stick to the all-star race being a Saturday night race. Don't make it a Sunday night race like you did, NASCAR. Please and thank you. Anyways, that's it. Goodbye.